Mic check 212, bitch.
What's up, guys? This is DDP tuning here real quick at halftime of the Mavs Thunder game. I know the main subject of this video, I wanted to get on here and talk about it a little bit for just what we know, and obviously this is the biggest story surrounding the team. So here we go, last day of March. Let's tackle this. Get it out there, talk about it a little bit, and then hopefully we can turn this into a game companion in the second half after we get past the initial unpleasantries, right? So, if you've been under a rock since yesterday when this news broke, there is an allegation of rape pertaining to Kristaps Porzingis from 2018. If you look at the timeline, it corresponds with the night he tore his ACL. And that in itself is wild. I know there's discussion already going on in the comments about how one would go about that. It does feel slightly less likely, but it doesn't by any means mean it's not possible. So here's what we know. When the Mavericks made the trade for Porzingis, initially we heard that they were aware of the situation and that they therefore weren't that concerned with it. And so it was a bad look, especially for an organization that had their issue with the sales department and everything like that. Just not a good look. But actually, Rangers King there in the comments sent me a link earlier from Brad Townsend basically contradicting that report, saying that while the Mavericks were told of the extortion attempt against KP, they were not in fact told about the word rape was not used in that context. So it doesn't change the investigation regarding KP, but it does shine a little bit of light, at least for the Mavericks, that, hey, maybe they didn't know the full details of it, and therefore they aren't to be viewed in a shady way for this whole situation. So KP and his lawyer and everyone were already aware of this from when it all went down initially, and basically they referred the case to the FBI, saying that the woman's claims or whatever had become extortionate. She was saying something about $68,000 for her brother's college tuition, which is a very odd, specific thing to call out on that. Doesn't quite jibe with what you would anticipate, but, you know, who knows. And now the latest thing is that supposedly, or according to her, KP actually punched her in the face in the whole thing. And if any of it's true in the first place, man, that's disgusting. Like, I have no sympathy or patience for KP if he actually did it, but I don't know if he did it. No one other than KP and this woman, I guess, actually know right now. So while the investigation is ongoing, all we can really do is just say, well, I hope he didn't do it, but you just got to see how it plays out, man. It's something that could definitely shake up the future we're trying to build toward. It's certainly not a good look no matter what. And, you know, no matter what, even if this story goes away, like even if it's discredited somehow and goes away, it'll always on some level be pinned to KP. That's how this stuff works. Regardless of whether or not something is true or proven, or even if it goes to court or anything like that, there's always going to be that element now where that whole unpleasantry will be, in some people's minds, applied to KP. Just like for the Cowboys, Zeke Elliott, domestic violence is applied to him. Even though we don't know for sure, even though the NFL's own investigation seemed to suggest that nothing happened in that case, or at least nothing along the lines of what was being reported by his ex-girlfriend. Regardless of whether you think Zeke did it or not, even though now we've been more than a full year from it, that's still going to be something associated with his story. So you hope he didn't do it. In this case, KP. It seems like it'd be rather tough to do it when you're 7'3" and on a freshly torn ACL, like hours after the tear. I gotta think that you're in substantial pain anyway, and your mobility is probably pretty bad in that circumstance, but I don't know. I've also heard KP is notorious for sliding into Instagram models' DMs, so I don't know, man. We'll see, but let's see here. Marcus, story has so many weird things going on. I'm very skeptical about it. I'm skeptical to a degree as well, but I'm also, regardless if it's true or not, it's an unfortunate thing because now it's going to kind of cloud the offseason, right? So depending on how long this takes to clear through and all that, well, our whole marketing ploy was, hey, you want to come play with Luka and KP, a freshly recovered KP, and have the Unicorn and the Wonder Boy, which is a very weird tandem nickname if you think about it. But that was the pitch to free agents. And now you're looking at it and you're saying, yeah, we think everything with KP is cool, but do you want to come here and maybe have to answer questions about that whenever this thing gets to a fever pitch at some point? Like, it's not very appealing. That's not something a lot of guys are going to want to do. So, I don't know. My Cowboys family, what's up? Brian Cruz, what's good? Cowboys X Factor, Gleh. Rangers King, what's up? Yeah, it's a bad situation. There's nothing else you can say about it. It sounds like the Mavericks knew about the extortion attempt, which is what KP and his lawyer referred to the FBI, and now it's their investigation. The league was made aware of it. They've agreed that it's also, they've basically also just said, yes, we're aware of the investigation. Haven't really elaborated beyond that. Let me pull up the actual comment, the actual release from KP's lawyer if you haven't heard it yet. Oh, and everyone who's asking about KP's original Instagram post after the trade saying the truth will come out and had like a smiley face, I don't think this is related to that. And I know there are some people saying, hey, this is KP trying to get in front of it. But if you don't know for sure that the story is going to come out anyway, if you're going to get out in front of something, you get out in front of it honestly. You don't allude to it and then just kind of sit back and see what happens. You would say, hey, the truth's going to come out and we're going to see, the truth's going to come out and, there are some claims against me that might be made. Totally untrue. That would be getting out ahead of it. Something like that. Saying the truth will come out and then going radio silent on that front for some time, couple months really. That I don't know about. But here's the quotes here. Here's the quote here from KP's lawyer. It says, we are aware of the complaint that was made against Mr. Porzingis on Friday and unequivocally deny the allegations. We made a formal referral to federal law enforcement on December 20th, 2018, based on the accuser's extortionate demands. We also alerted the National Basketball Association months ago, and they are aware of the ongoing investigation of the accuser by federal law enforcement. We cannot further comment on an ongoing federal investigation. Please refer any questions to the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the National Basketball Association. So that's all that they've put out there from KP and his lawyer so far. If it's true, man, answering Brian's question, he says, should the Mavericks release him? If it's proven true, in today's climate, that might be a serious discussion they need to have. I'll say as a fan, I won't be able to look at him the same if it is proven true. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that if it happens, you really can't get past that. I mean, that's not something that can be glossed over. This isn't like the 80s or 90s where you had some, I mean, hell, in the NFL, this was stuff still going on well into the 2000s. I'm sure there are cases with the NBA as well. But you can't gloss over this stuff anymore. There's zero tolerance for this kind of stuff. even if it was sexual assault and not full-fledged, as the accusation states, rape. Which, by the way, for this stream, I'm probably getting demonetized anyway, because even though I avoided using the word in the title, there's probably enough times where the thing will pick up, just like it can pick up if I'm cursing. It can probably pick up those other unpopular words and decide that it's not a stream they want to put advertisers on, which I understand. So we're doing this discussion for the discussion purpose, not for the sake of ad revenue. So let's see here. KP is young enough to have intended to get out in front, and it did it poorly without thinking about it. True. I guess I could see that, but the timing does still seem weird to me. That I guess if that's the logic, that he was always going to wait until he was moved before doing it, because he understood that while he had a trade demand, more or less, it was more so he said he wasn't part of their long-term plans. But while he more or less had a trade demand, that no one was going to touch him if they knew this was out there. And so maybe he was holding off on it until he got traded and then immediately threw that out there. I don't like it either way. If that's his plan, I don't like that method. So, let's see here. First name, last name. I see your question. I'm not going to let it show on the stream, though, just because I want to avoid that word popping up in the comments as much as possible. Appreciate that. First name, last name. But yes, so that's the idea on that. If that's his intention, I don't like it, but we'll see. I mean, it's a bad situation all around. So, what does sexual harassment always get involved in the Mavs? Asks VZ Kills It. Why does it always get involved? I mean, the front office thing was really bad. That wasn't assault. That was harassment, sexual harassment. And you had like the pants DJ and guys like that. Unwarranted advances, inappropriate advances, things like that. As far as sexual assault, I don't know that there's another example of that. I mean, when Jason Kidd left Dallas not off his rookie deal, but when they traded him in the middle of his rookie deal, he had issues when he was like in Phoenix and stuff, maybe even New Jersey, related to an altercation with his wife, domestic violence with his wife, I believe, but nothing sexual assault. Regarding this, though, it's, I don't know, man. It's bad timing. And she wanted money. Come on, smells like BS. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is she claims the only reason she didn't come forward earlier is because he had agreed to pay her brother's college tuition, which comes in at exactly... Oh, yes, Earl K. You're right, Rangers King. Wow, I forgot about that POS. Yeah. Is it similar to Kobe's case? Hold on, let me answer that other question first. Yeah, so supposedly she says she kept quiet about it because he had promised to pay her off by means of paying her brother's $68,000 college tuition, and then he never did so, and so now she's coming forth. If there's truth to that, if I'm KP, 68 grand's a lot of money, especially someone on his rookie deal still, but you got to think career earnings as well at that point, any sponsorships, things like that. If you're him and you've actually done this terrible thing, which I'm not saying he did, I'm just speculating. If that's the case, what would you say, what would you do regarding that? Would you just pay her and have her go away? Or would you intentionally ghost her effectively and just do nothing, knowing she'll come forth? That's what I can't wrap my head around, because to me that makes no sense. I think if you're KP, if you did this, you have to go the whole 9 yards and just get it out of the way. But it sounds like they went forward instead and said, hey, once she was trying to squeeze him for 68 large, he referred it, and his lawyer referred it to the FBI to investigate her instead. I don't know. It's a big cluster F, and it's not really something I want to dive into on this particular moment beyond what I've covered, because anything else is pure conjecture. ATL keeps winning. Yes, let's pivot. Yes, Atlanta wins at It was in Atlanta against Milwaukee, the number 1 seed in the East. They win on a Trae Young game winner buzzer beater with 1.1 seconds left. Tipped inbound pass thrown to the rim. Ball just happens to come right to Trae Young, and he gets a tip-in floater basically as time expires. Great play for him. Great that Atlanta won. Why is great? Because now, with 7 games to play, including today, I think, we're now talking about being within a game of the 5th worst record. And I believe with the new odds, the 5th worst record means you're getting a top 5 pick. So that's why people were saying Dallas had to have, 1 through 4 was what they had to bank on, because even if they got 5, well, you couldn't really get 5 because that would go to the 5th worst record. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Rangers King. I'm sure you know. But that's what we were looking at. And so with that being the case, it gets a little bit crazy, and they got a chance. They have a chance here to keep that top 5 pick. I've actually heard some other discussions as well today talking about, I think it was Eddie Sefko who pitched this, and Chuck Cooperstein back to the idea that if Dallas does keep its pick, but it's pick 4 or 5, that Dallas should still move the pick to Atlanta via trade, just get something for it to close the deal on the offer, because in their minds, it's not a deep enough trade, not a deep enough draft. They believe that the draft is only 2 or 3 players deep in terms of substantial players, and the pick itself and the reward Dallas could get for it, the value Dallas could get for it, is greater than what they could get for the player himself. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think on that. My thoughts are, if Dallas is a top 3 pick, I want to keep it. 4 or 5, then yeah, I'm more open to moving it at that point, because I do think at that point you have more value in moving it as part of a trade than you have keeping the player and hoping they can be a substantial part of your overall building blocks. So, let's see here. So, for those watching, Dallas is currently playing the Oklahoma City Thunder. There is no Luka Doncic. Oh, here's Rangers King with clarification. Crazy bit is Dallas only got 2.2% chance of staying at 5. Also would not do what Eddie is saying. Interesting. Well, I had reluctance on it as well at first. I'm not super... I don't have any substantial feeling on if they should move it or not. I think that maybe there's value in moving the trade. Not in what he said, because Sefko made it sound like, hey, just dump the pick to Atlanta and get something in return. I don't like that mentality, but we'll see what they do. If we get the 4th or 5th pick, we should trade it, but not to Atlanta. I don't know what they'll give us. Prince? I don't want Prince. Nah. I don't know what we would get for that. We'd have to see. I'm not even thinking in those terms yet as far as what we would get for moving the pick, because I first want to see what pick we have to discuss, which is why I mentioned before, whenever we get to the point of the NBA lottery drawing, which I believe is May 14th, I believe. It's a Tuesday. Annie and I are going to do a live stream, live reaction to the ping pong balls, see where they land, see if Dallas gets to keep their pick. And then we'll begin to wildly speculate based on if they keep their pick, what they might do. If they don't keep their pick, well, then we're going to turn it immediately in that same stream to free agency talk. Let's see here. So, Dallas playing today, as I mentioned before, against Oklahoma City. Dallas, despite no Luka Doncic, went into halftime with a 58-56 lead in Oklahoma City. Man, Oklahoma City has been in complete and utter free fall since the All-Star break. And I keep telling people this. I keep telling them, Oklahoma City clinched. They're the 8th seed right now. They lost the season series to San Antonio 2-1, so they're probably going to stick at the 8th seed. They were as high as the 3 seed, right? I think going into the All-Star break, they were the 3 seed. They have completely fallen off. I think they've gone 7-13 after the All-Star break. That is abysmal for a team as good as they are. Their problem is they don't have outside shooting. They don't have any consistent outside shooting. and it hurts him. Paul George can shoot threes. He's a good three-point shooter. Westbrook thinks he's a good three-point shooter, but I think his career percentage is like 30 or 31%. He's trigger happy. We know that. We know the highs and lows that come with Russell Westbrook. Beyond that, you don't have a whole lot. They don't have a whole lot in that way that can help them. So right now, with 8 minutes left, the game is knotted up at 62 all. Let's see. Devin Harris, man, he was going off in this first half. Devin Harris has 14 points right now, 4 of 6 on threes. I mean, he was just lighting it up from deep. And then he took the weirdest situation. He had to have thought the shot clock was running out. He basically unguarded heaves it from half court with 7 seconds on the shot clock. Misses badly. And it's like almost immediately after that, OKC goes on a 9-0 run to close out the half, cut it to a 2-point deficit at the half. OKC, man, they're long, they're athletic, they can defend, and if they're properly motivated, they can be tough. That's why I say if they come down to a matchup with the Warriors in the first round, OKC just has to hope they can pretty much literally punch them in the mouth as hard as they can and knock Golden State off their game, because if you get into a shootout with Golden State, OKC doesn't have the guns to do it. They just don't. Not even close. Let's see here. KP allegation make us tanking a bigger need now. I mean, I think they were already in it full bore. I don't think it's now they look at each other and go, oh, well, now we really need to tank. I think it was already happening if you look at it. They've only won a couple games recently. So I think maybe, if anything, it just makes them on some level go like, oh, well, it's not like there's anything for us to change, but man, it might be even better for us to hang on to that pick. That'd be crazy if OKC gets the 8 seed. I'm sure they will. Like I said, San Antonio has a game edge on them, and I think OKC has a somewhat tough final 8 games, or not 8 games, but final stretch of games. Devin Harris wants the pick also. Yeah, for sure. So let's see here. Brunson's been solid, 11 points here. I've really been impressed with what I've seen from Trey Burke off the bench. He's got 12 points as well. He and Devin Harris got things going, I felt like, there for the Mavericks in the first half when they made that run to push their lead. I think up as high as 11 is what I saw. So let's see here. At this point, I'm going to go game companion on the rest of this stream. I don't know that I'm going to do the full second half, but I will go game companion. Should we have kept Harrison Barnes? No, Alan, I don't think we should have. Harrison Barnes didn't fit within what we want to do. If you look at kind of the role he's played in Sacramento, it's basically what he was doing here. His numbers are relatively the same. The difference is we were having to ask him to be a number 1 or a number 2, and that's not really what he is. He's more of a number 3 at best on some teams. I think he's better suited as like the 4th option, and that doesn't fit with us because he's an ISO player. He's not a guy that moves the ball or creates for other guys. And not only that, he was set to make like, what, $27 million next year, $29 million, something like that. Dallas cleaned out a ton of cap space, which now gives them the flexibility to go after one or more good to great level free agents this summer. And it's a decent free agency class. So, no, I don't think that they should have kept Barnes. And I think if they had kept Barnes, it honestly would have made the necessary tanking process they're trying to partake in right now. I think it would have made it more difficult. So that's my take on it. All right. So I got game companion rolling here. OKC, I see, leads 64-62. Let's see. If you guys have not seen already, I put out the announcement for my new podcast, Feeling Dangerous. It was my first choice for a name, and even though I initially put it kind of on the back burner and went through 2-3 dozen names more that I considered, took some votes and polling, thank you to those who participated in that, I ultimately felt like, the one I've never marked off the list because I still like it is Feeling Dangerous. So ultimately, push came to shove, so that's what I threw up there. And I feel pretty good about it. I've started recording as of today. I started recording the first episode of Feeling Dangerous. That'll drop probably Wednesday, I want to say. Let me see here. Throw up the logo. There you go. There's the podcast logo. That will be dropping Wednesday, so be on the lookout for it. That's open-ended. That's sports, gaming, film, writing, just anything. Interviews of interest. It's an open vehicle for me to pretty much do anything. So it's not going to affect flow of prospect stuff. You're still going to get all your regular shows. It's just an additional thing that I'm kind of taking on. How did Zeke's case last before sort of judgment was put out? I don't follow what you were saying on that first sentence. Also, Casey said he wanted to go back on the court minutes after the injury. So you're talking about if KP, how does his case compare to Zeke? Zeke ended up serving a 6-game suspension in his case. It was a year-long investigation, and it mostly just came down to he said, she said, and there was, not to dig all this back up again, but there were serious questions about the reliability of the accuser in this case, basically the honesty, the character of this accuser, and basically the NFL, I think, wanted a scapegoat because we've had other NFL players do stuff that is on camera visibly worse than anything Zeke was accused of, and they've gotten slaps on the wrist like 5 games or 4 games, not a year-long microscope investigation, and then pretty much made an example out of when their own investigation recommended no punishment because they couldn't prove anything. So, yeah, it is what it is, but that's what it boiled down to in that case. How that compares to KP, I mean, yeah, it's been like a year later, but it hasn't been an ongoing year of investigation, far as I know, because I think they mentioned December 20th was when they came forth to the FBI, and they say, so just, a few months ago is when they're saying that they went to the FBI with this because her claims had turned extortionate. So how did the gap of a year occur in which she was already either asking for money or there was some kind of agreement in place? Like, did this drag out for a year without some kind of resolution, and then eventually she just finally came public with it, or threatened to go public with it, and that's when he referred the case to the FBI? I don't know. I don't have all the details in that case. All I can say is that there are questions, certainly. And you mentioned KP wanting to go back on the court minutes after the injury. Yeah, I mean, sometimes that happens. But why that feels different to me than hours later, when it's minutes after it happened, dude, you're still on an adrenaline high. There were so many times playing basketball over the years. I ruptured a tendon in my foot sophomore year, maybe junior year. And I did it in the first quarter, and I played the rest of the game. And it wasn't until the following morning when basically my foot was just completely effed up and I couldn't even barely walk on it. I mean, I literally spent the next 6 weeks in a walking boot because I had messed up my foot that badly. But I played the rest of the game on it. So when you got your adrenaline up, you can go through that stuff. Him wanting to go back on the court's not a shock to me after he tore his ACL. But after several hours, I feel like physically you're going to have the issues of going about it, of actually being capable of doing something. But, I don't know. This is, again, speculation and conjecture. I can only relate it to my experience. But I feel like if I'm 7'3", a knee injury is probably more devastating than it is for me at 6 foot. If we get a top 5 pick, we should keep it, says Jason Bryant. Well, we'll take a look at what options are there, but I think it is a top-heavy draft for sure. And that was part of why the Mavericks were okay with including a future number 1 in the deal last year for Luka, because they didn't feel like it was a stellar, deep draft class coming out. Zoran, what's up? I don't think that's true. I think this is deliberate. Firstly, the debate around Rookie of the Year. Then and now this. They're afraid of the Mavs and they want to disable us. That's our opinion, or my opinion. I don't think it's a conspiracy against the Mavericks. I don't. I don't think that somewhere Adam Silver and the rest of the league is just twirling their mustache, just give the rookie of the year to Trae Young. Like, Trae Young's been stellar since the All-Star break. The Hawks, I mean, he's shown that, hey, at the very least, you can't say Atlanta lost the trade for Luka. You can say that Luka's better than Trae still, which I would, but you can't say that Atlanta made a mistake because they got an additional number one at some point, be it this year or the future, and that's still a lot you can build around. So for that, I think it's a win-win. Trae Young has been killing it. He's had a few iconic moments here early on where he's getting these game winners and these crazy buzzer beaters and things like that. That's going to turn some heads this time of year because this is the time of year when people get reactionary. The difference is, and this is the only thing working against Luka, a lot of his most iconic moments were before the All-Star break. Now, there have been glimpses of moments here and there, but think about like the shot in Portland. Moments like that are his iconic moments, and those were earlier on. Now, I still think Luka is the rookie of the year, and I don't think it should be that much of a discussion because it's of the year, not of the last 20 games post-All-Star break. But, you know, it is what it is. I think that Trae has closed the gap, but when the gap was a freaking ocean before, for it to now be a canyon of difference, well, it's been narrowed, but it's still pretty clear-cut, I think. So, regarding KP, I think this was going to come out no matter what eventually. I think maybe the timing of it, people do point out, hey, it's common knowledge at this point. It's already been reported he's about to make $158 million on his new deal, which he'll get this summer. So, yeah, timing would fit well for some kind of extortionate action. Maybe, but I feel like taking it public is a mistake then. If you're going to try it, I feel like going public is a mistake because you're going to have the people who don't want to believe it and who immediately clap back, and then you're going to get scrutinized for it instead, and you could face your own investigation if it's not legit. So I don't know, man. It's all speculation. Have you noticed more than 2,000 Slovenians in Miami? What did you think? I did see that when Dallas went to Miami for the last time. I'll talk about that a little bit. So to see Goran Dragic and Luka Doncic, over 2,000 Slovenians made the trip to Miami. It's really cool. They swapped jerseys at the end of the game. People talking about the all-time series between Dirk and Wade. 17 regular season games or wins apiece against each other. 6-6 in the finals. Both have one finals MVP as well against each other. I get that, and so Wade won, and yes, Wade strips or intercepts a pass and gets didn't even matter, the game was already over, but gets the dagger bucket against Ryan Brokoff to close out the game, and so everyone's like, oh, Dwayne Wade has eternal bragging rights over Dirk Nowitzki for all time now because he has one more regular season win, and there you go. And it's like, bruh, what did he... I mean, look at the teams Dwayne Wade had over the years. He had 4 straight years with LeBron and Bosh where he got to go walk into the finals every year. Dirk, aside from his own greatness of that 11, 12-year stretch where they had 50 wins every year, post-title, it's not even a competition which guy has had the better team. Miami had a couple dud years in there, sure. Wade himself bounced. He went to Chicago, and then he went to Cleveland, and then he got traded back to Miami. That's the main difference to me. First of all, Dirk never left. Dirk never made a business decision based on money and feeling like he was being disrespected. Miss me with that. And I know that we're talking head-to-head, but if we're going to have a discussion regarding their accomplishments side by side and, oh, look how much better is this. All right, let's talk about their points. Let's talk about how many career points they got, because Dwayne Wade... 20? Does Dwayne Wade have 20,000 points? I honestly don't know. It's never been a notable milestone that's been mentioned that I'm aware of. Dirk's 6th all time. Let's then take a look at regular season MVPs. Dirk, 1. Wade, Kuseg, nothing. It's not a discussion to me. Like, if you're asking me, hey, if I could take either one of them right now in their prime, the prime of their career, who do I want, Dirk or Wade? Wade's a better defender than Dirk, and if you look back to the 06, or not the 06, the 2011 finals, Wade was stellar in that series. But I'm going to take Dirk. Maybe it's favoritism, but I look at Dirk, 12 straight 50-win seasons in the Western Conference, which is a tougher conference anyway, and what Dallas was able to do with him. Wade had to get LeBron and Bosh to come to town for him to be able to compete for a championship again. Dirk by himself, well, not completely by himself, he had Jet and the rest of the squad, but Dirk more or less by himself brought in everyone and cleaned house on Miami's super team. Dirk never officially said this is his last season, correct? You think he could play one more? He hasn't said it's his last season, and I think here's the thing. Dallas, the Mavericks, they're going to treat it like it's his last season, and they're going to see how it plays out, right? Because I think what's going to happen is Dirk is going to make his decision in the middle of the summer. He's not going to tell you, I don't think, in the exit interview. I think he's legitimately going to go rest up, and he's going to see how his body feels. He's going to talk with his wife, his family, and he's going to ask himself, okay, if I want to be ready for the season, I need to get working now. Is that fire still there? Is that drive and desire there? Do I want to do this? If you ask Dirk how he felt before the All-Star break, I think Dirk would have told you he was pretty miserable this year. His body wasn't right. He didn't feel right. He couldn't play well. He looked awful out there, frankly. If you look at how he's played All-Star break and beyond this year, he looks about like he did last year. So there's fuel in the tank. I have no doubt there is some fuel in the tank for one more run. And I would love to see him come back and get to make the playoffs at least. I'd love to see him get to play a year with KP and Luke, another one with Luka. I think that would be really, really, really cool. Will it happen? I don't know. I think he's going to make up his mind in the middle of June, July, see how he feels, what he wants to do. And that's why the Mavericks are having to take the precautionary route of kind of treating it like it's his final hurrah, because if he makes his decision in the middle of the summer, well, shit, now you didn't get a chance to really honor him the way you wanted to. So they're going to do it now. They're not going to ever officially say, hey, this is it, his last game in the AAC. Then they might say like, oh, it could be his last game, but they'll see. So that's how I feel about it. I'm actually going to be at his second to last home game on the 5th. I'm going to go there and check out when they play the Memphis Grizzlies. So hopefully we got Luka back from his right thigh contusion, and then we have Dirk as well. After that, they'll have, I think, against Phoenix is their last home game, and then the Dirk's potential swan song to San Antonio. I'm still mad as hell his potential last game is going to be on the road. Who the hell thought that was a good idea? That just sucks. You want to see his last moment. I mean, they gave Kobe a home game for his final game. Come on, man. Come on, son. When they talk about Luka, no one mentions he has practically played a year or two in a row almost without rest. Yeah, and I think that's part of why he's had to dip off in this last stretch of the season as far as his efficiency. You still see the playmaking, but his field goal percentage has dropped, his three-point percentage has dropped. And I think for that reason, it's hilarious to me. Some people are looking at that and saying, like some people, and there's a handful who have said this, so I'm just going to lump them all into one. Worst take of all time. Those people who are saying, oh, now Luka's getting exposed. Mav fans are finding out Luka's not that great because you take away DeAndre Jordan, Harrison Barnes, Dennis Smith Jr., and Wesley Matthews, and what do you got? Bro, he's been racking up triple-doubles since they were gone. Are you seriously trying to attribute it to the freaking record? We've been in tank mode, and he's playing with scrubs. No offense to the guys we got. I like Powell, I like Dorian Finney-Smith, and I like Trey Burke and some of these other guys we got. They're not starters. They're not. And the fact that we're having to roll with them and play them as if they are our starters, that's why you've seen the drop-off. It has nothing to do with Luka. So anyone who coincidentally is based out of Atlanta or is associated with Atlanta media that wants to come in here with that weak-ass take, slap it out of the park. That's crap. Not even worth it. Not even worth discussing. Where's your conversation about Trae Young for the start of the year? Where's your conversation right now for Trae Young's defensive rating? Where? Where is it? It's nowhere. Nowhere. Because they don't have an argument or a defense for that. They don't. All they can do is point to, ooh, buzzer beater. Ooh, game winner. There you go, rookie of the year, right there. Slap it on a biscuit. That's the discussion. It's not the discussion, man. You can't be a slave to the moment. You have to look in the grand scheme of something when giving out a yearly award. I'm going to laugh my ass off for the record if Atlanta finds a way to win enough games that Dallas is able to actually jump them in the worst record discussion and keep their pick. I would laugh my ass off because Atlanta's going against their own needs. Now, they would be like, oh, well, we care more about the young team learning how to play together and growing, and Dallas losing games over here. Bruh, what did I just say about this unit? What did I just say about these players we're running out here? This is not our starting lineup for next season. Aside from Luka, not one of these dudes, other than maybe Jalen Brunson, is a starter for this team. Brunson's doing work. I love what Brunson's doing. I would still have him be the backup point guard, but depending on what they do in free agency or potentially the draft, you might have to, if you have reservations, which there aren't as many people with reservations right now, I feel, you might have to get over those and just let him roll as your point. He works well next to Luka, and that works for the long term. So, with that said, that is how I feel about the somehow still ongoing Rookie of the Year discussion. Every time Trae does anything, they're going to try and dredge up the story again because that's all they have. They can only manufacture a story to make it real. It's the only way they can do it. If we took a highlight reel right now of all of Luka's best plays from this season versus all of Trae's best plays for the season, and we did it honestly, and we really legitimately had every single one of them, we would have a 25 to 30 minute highlight reel for Luka and about a 17-minute one for Trae Young. Does that mean Trae Young should be our Rookie of the Year? Nah, bro. Nah. Yeah, I can't. Yes, people are talking about it because Trae Young hit another game winner today. So, let me check in on this game here. See what's going right with OKC and Dallas. Dallas leads 80-76. 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Let's see. Looks like Trey Burke with 22 points. What? 22 points in 20 minutes, 7 assists. Hey, shout out to, he's not here with me, obviously, but shout out to Ennie and Duca, my usual co-host for Mavs Fastbreak. He has been very high on Trey Burke this whole, I was going to say this whole season, but that wouldn't make sense. Since the trade went down, he was psyched about getting Trey Burke. He was high on Trey Burke years ago when Dallas had interest in Trey coming out of Michigan, and he wound up first in Utah. And he went somewhere else. Almost went to OKC last year, but he backed out to go to New York, which I thought was strange. And now, yeah. Rookie of the Year discussion is a joke. One said it right. Trae Young is compared. Can't catch him. Salute, fam. Thanks for the donation. Oh, hey, the animation works again. Awesome. One said it right. Trae Young is compared all-time to Luka, while Luka is all-time compared to Magic Johnson, LeBron, etc. Yeah. Trae is no slouch, but this is Luka's award. I don't care what anyone says, and if you and Magic Johnson have the same amount of triple-doubles as a rookie, then no one else can even compete for the Rookie of the Year award. Yeah, Trae Young notched his first one not too long ago, and Trae Young is 21, I want to say. No, that's not right. Let's see. 20? Whatever. He's older than Luka. He's not a teenager, that's for sure. So yeah, Trae Young, nice player. I said coming out of the draft, I was afraid he was boom or bust. He looks like he'll be boom. To his credit, he looks like he'll be boom. Now, part of why before I even realized Dallas was going to get in the discussion for Luka, I didn't know they were going to be able to trade up. I didn't entertain thoughts of getting Luka because I didn't think they'd move up. So one of the discussions I did have did involve the prospect of landing Trae Young. And at the time, I said, I love Trae. Like I've said before, he went to my high school from my hometown. I know I've watched him play in high school. I've watched him play in college. And now I've watched him play in the NBA. He's no slouch. Dude's legit. But I had reservations because I thought Dennis was going to get... One, I thought Dennis was going to flourish better in Dallas than he did. Two, well, now I don't know if he'll ever flourish, but I thought Dennis was going to work out in Dallas, and even if he didn't, I thought he was going to get a longer sample run. And so I looked at Trae Young's size, the fact that he's a point guard and that he needs the ball in his hands, and I was like, hey, Dennis Smith, size, point guard, needs the ball in his hands. These don't work together. So I wasn't really that entertained by the idea of Trae Young to Dallas, but it was kind of cool all the same to see him for about 5 minutes wear a Mavericks hat, even though he had already been traded effectively to the Hawks. It's Luka, and it's not even close. Promise. For sure. Not that it matters, but I'd rather have Luka all day, every day, regardless if Trae is going to be good. God bless you, Trae, but real is real. Yeah, no, I mean, that's pretty much how it boils down. I think Trae Young will be good for them. I think it helps that he's in the East as well. A lot of his games aren't against as fierce of competition. If you look at their stats for people also trying to entertain Rookie of the Year for Trae Young, okay, look at their stats across the board. Trae beats Luka in assists, maybe 3-point percentage now. That's about it. So, yeah. But that's probably going to wrap it up for my time here, guys. I've been going about 50 minutes. Stay tuned. Look for more stuff in the future. I will have that first episode of the podcast, Feeling Dangerous, dropping this Wednesday. That's not Dallas Prospect content. That's just me. It can be sports, film, gaming, writing, interviews of interest, whatever. It's just my open vehicle to pretty much do anything and everything. Beyond that, I won't keep you. Just remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute. And find the outro button. Salute.